Wow, I found a video of someone talking about this album. Hi. Keith Flint's punk party album. When the hell are we getting a new Prodigy album? Welcome back. This will be the first time I'm covering a sort of spin-off band or solo project kind of thing, which is, as you can see from the title of the video, Device 1 by Flint. I'm talking about this band, not these gentlemen. Keith Flint, you may know from the Prodigy. Flint was a very short-lived punk rock band created by Keith Flint. The band consisted of Flint on lead vocals, Jim Davies on guitar, formerly of Pitch Shifter, Rob Holliday on bass guitar, and Tony Howlett on drums. No relation to Liam Howlett. And this album, it's kind of hard to find much information on the internet. Wikipedia's got very little, a couple of paragraphs and that's it. But this album planned to be released in 2003, but apparently was cancelled, which I don't quite understand. The songs were recorded, the album was compiled, the artwork was ready and everything, and then it was just cancelled. I don't understand that. Like, if it's already made, just put it out there. Like, what have you got to lose? I'm quite a big Prodigy fan. Fat of the Land was released in 1997, followed by Dirt Chamber Sessions in 1999, and so by 2003, I was personally very hungry for anything even loosely Prodigy related. To find out that Keith Flint, my hero, my idol, was releasing a punk album, I could not have been more hyped. There was some magazine that I had, it must have been Kerrang, because I had loads of issues of that magazine. There was like a 4-page spread of information on the fact that Keith Flint was doing a punk album. And I remember back in the day, my bedroom was covered in posters, and I cut out the pages of this Kerrang magazine and put them on the walls because I was that excited. And they stayed up there long after I heard the album. But because it was cancelled, you couldn't find it. So, as we all know, in the early 2000s, it was quite popular to acquire albums through the internet, let's say, and so I did. But the wonky version I had was, it was like half the songs, it was really low bitrate, and some of them were like the first half of the song, and then the rest of the audio file was that same bit again, just like stapled together. I don't know what was going on, but I still listened to it, even in crappy quality, and I loved it. It's just very sad that it's lost to time, kind of. I mean, you can actually you can find this album on Discogs for, do you want to have a guess how much you can buy this album for? 100 euros maybe? 200 euros maybe? 350 euros. That is eye-watering. But that's how rare this album is. I think there was like 1,000 copies pressed or something. It's really rare. So yeah, I'm not going to be going into huge in-depth detail song by song this time. I just want to basically make you aware that this album even exists, because I'm sure a lot of Prodigy fans probably don't even know that this album is out there somewhere, which it is. You can find it. You can go on YouTube and find it and listen to it. But if you want the physical copy, that's going to cost you. If I was to give any criticism to this album, it's that it's quite monotonous. And for me, not in a bad way, because I love this album and I find it very consistent, but I could see someone perceiving it as being monotonous. Maybe that's why it was cancelled. I don't know. Maybe they just weren't happy with it. I have really no idea. If you know, by all means in the comments, hit me up, let me know. So there was only one music video for this album, which was Aim 4. Just a boy with a toy, just a dummy, dumb dummy, just a bit of fun. And for some reason there's 2 drummers in the music video. I don't really understand that. I'm not complaining, it's kind of cool. That was something that I remember at the time. Alec Empire, for anyone who knows Alec Empire, had 2 drummers live. And like, not 2 drummers, not like 1 drummer and 1 percussionist, like 2 full drummers playing the same beat. I don't know why. But yeah, so there was 2 drummers in the video and a female bass player in the video, but I've no idea who she is, and I've no idea who the second drummer is. It's a bit of a mystery. Like, there's so much mystery surrounding this album, and I don't ever remember reading anything, like an interview with Keith, you know, years later, saying like, you know, what happened with the album? Oh, well, this happened and that happened. I never really found that. Again, if you know, please fill me in. I'm very curious. I'm just going by what I can remember and my feelings on this album and the brief, very little amount of information that there is on Wikipedia. But a couple of the standout songs for me were always Aim For Is Good, Hell Yeah, and Kamikaze. Those 2 songs back to back, those 3 back to back actually, were always kind of my favorite songs. Hell Yeah, I love the riff in Hell Yeah. It's where it gets to like proper mosh pit music. And it kind of like skateboard video montage music, it kind of puts that in my mind as well. There was a lot of that going on around the time, early 2000s, of course. If you lowered the tuning of the guitars on this album, it could almost be nu metal. I could see a lot of Prodigy fans being put off by this album immediately. You know, just because they like the sound of Keith Flint's voice doesn't mean they necessarily like punk music. I understand that. But, you know, young, mid-teen me, of course I was going to be into this. My lifelong hero doing a punk album. Of course I'm going to be into this. I always like this. Yeah, Kamikaze is... If you know the band CKY, Kamikaze very much reminds me of something that CKY would do. There's something about the riff and the guitar tone in Kamikaze, and throughout a lot of this album actually, that does remind me of CKY. I would say Asteroids as the opening track is not the hottest start. I think Asteroids is actually a bad choice of an intro for this album. That's one criticism I will give it. I think you should have just started with the second song, Piggy. It's like Asteroids is kind of a warm-up to Piggy, but it's still a song. It's not an intro. Like, I wouldn't have done that. But yeah, like I said, I could see fans of, you know, Breathe and Firestarter hearing this and going, oh no, this is not for me. But there's other fans like me who were sort of in that, you know, that Venn diagram of electronic music people and metal guitar based music people. There's a crossover there, and I'm bang in the middle there. So this is exactly for me. This is one of those albums that makes me wonder, like, what if? Like, if they hadn't have cancelled this album. I mean, what if we'd have never have heard it? That would be truly tragic. like I said, I was craving anything Prodigy related, you know, even like Maxim's solo stuff. I was getting into that as well, because the Prodigy weren't really doing anything around this time. And it was kind of up in the air as to whether they would continue. The year after this, Always Outnumbered, Never Outgunned by the Prodigy came out, and basically Liam did that all on his own. Keith was not involved in that whatsoever, as neither was Maxim. And Leroy left the Prodigy around the same time, so it was a really turbulent time for the Prodigy. It could have been the end. Like I say, if this album had, because of people like me, who were starving for Prodigy content, with proper backing, this could have blown up. At that time, the Prodigy could have not continued, or it could have just been Liam carrying on his own. Keith could have had this whole new musical career, release album after album after album, and, you know, the whole course of the Prodigy's history would have been entirely different, for better or for worse. I mean, obviously I'm happy that the Prodigy came back together again years later for Invaders Must Die. I did have mixed feelings on that album when it came out, but it is a very, very good album. And so I'm happy that things went the way they went. But it really makes you think. Like, you know, he starts off with a punk album. Maybe next he does a reggae album. Yeah, it's just an interesting little nugget of the past that sometimes I forget about. When I do remember it, I'm like, oh god, that album was so good. And I have neglected to cover the Prodigy on this channel, you may have noticed. And those of you who know me personally are probably wondering why. And I don't really have an answer to that question. Because anyone that does know me knows how I feel about the Prodigy. I'm a little bit biased about the Prodigy, just a little bit. And they're so precious to me that I don't want to rush into an album without planning it, but then I also feel like if I plan it too much, then it's never going to happen, you know? So forgive me, but I will get round to doing some album at some point. But yeah, this album, I wish there was more to say. I've never even been able to find live video footage of them performing live, which I know they did. There's photos of it happening. There's just not a single video on the entire internet as far as I can find. And again, please, if you know where to find one, leave it down below in the comments, because I've never ever seen this band performing live. There's a this band performing live video shaped hole in my soul that needs to be filled and has needed to be filled for decades now. This was an album I always liked back in the day. I don't listen to very often, I must confess. I obviously listen to the Prodigy's music much more. But every now and again, I'm like, it's this specific album that I want to listen to. And it's always there. I have acquired it through the internet. I'm not paying 350 euros for an album, not even this one. But yeah, there's really not much more to say about this. If you are a fan of this album, and you're like, wow, I found a video of someone talking about this album. Hi. Because I haven't really seen much discourse on YouTube about this album. Probably because a lot of people think, oh, what's the point? No one knows about it. But I'm sure there's people that know this album and would like to talk about it, or at least to hear someone else's perspective on it. If I was to sum it up, I'd say it's Keith Flint's punk party album. I think that's the best way I can put it. I'm quite tired today. I'm actually off work because I'm so tired. So forgive me if I haven't seemed as enthusiastic as I normally am. Just really, really drained. I was sort of thinking about my next video. What am I going to do it on? And I was going through a bunch of ideas and a bunch of notes, and I'm like, oh, this album. I could talk about that album for quite a while. If you aren't subscribed and you've made it this far in the video, hit the subscribe button and the like button if you enjoy this kind of content, then there'll be plenty more of this coming, and if you check on my channel, there's plenty more stuff like this, ramblings about certain albums. As a final note, when the hell are we getting a new Prodigy album? Seriously, it's been so long. Here's hoping this year sometime. Yeah, thank you very much for watching. I still have not thought of how to end videos yet, so I'm just gonna say, go away.